It's pretty stock Goblins list. I don't think he changed too much. He has pile driver, lackey, matron, ringleader.
And started off with that lackey, so that's what you want to see as a Goblin start.
That is what you want to see. On the other hand, we've got Kenny Mayer. He showed me his deck earlier. He's playing just like black, white, green junk kind of. And then the Reliquaries, Dark Confidants, Sensei's Divining Top, Thoughtseize, Swords of Plowshares, Hymn to Turok. For those of you just joining us, this is round 8 of the Star City Games Open Series here in Edison, New Jersey. I'm Gavin Verhey, joined by Jared Silva, event manager for Star City Games.
Yep.
And we're watching the feature match between Max Tietze on the right-hand corner and Kenny Mayer on the left-hand side. Max led with a Goblin Lackey, which is exactly what he wants. It's just such a ridiculous card, but Kenny has the swords, fortunately, to foil that plan.
Yep, that was about to get real bad if he wasn't able to answer it.
Have you seen a lot of Goblins running around? I know you haven't had a ton of time to look through the tables, but
since Survival has been banned, Goblins has definitely been one of the major players. It was being held back by the Survival decks, and it didn't have a great matchup there. Really was trying to find where it fit in, what its sideboard should be, what types of plans it should be using. It stayed with Warren Weirding because you do still have a lot of decks that do throw that one big threat out. But that originally started off as tech against Reanimator, which took a huge dive after Mystical Tutor went away. So, but it's definitely been around. You've got a couple of versions of it. Most of them now are running with the Warren Weirding in the main deck, so they have some black in there that also gives them access to stuff like Thoughtseize in the sideboard. But you also sometimes just see all of that move to the board, which lets them have a little more space to just go after their opponent in their main deck.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and then on Kenny's side, like this black, white, green junk deck isn't something we've seen a ton of. We've seen kind of a Mangara Coronor version. Lewis Lasson called it Death and Taxes, I believe.
Yep. When you have Mangara of Coronor and Aether Vial, and a way to bounce it, you can send it in and out and just get rid of a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
That's the Death and Taxes combo. That gets dropped into a couple of these green, white, black decks.
Right, and so like Kenny has the Caracas still, good at bouncing Emrakul and Iona, but he does not have the Mangara of Coronor combo in the deck. So he's opted for like a more traditional build with Tarmogoyf, Knights of the Reliquaries, and Dark Confidants as his only creatures. And as you saw, he's used Hymn to Turok, the iconic card of the archetype, to strip 2 cards from Max's hand, really hurting his chances.
Yep, you hear a whole bunch, almost every format has its green, white, black deck. You just take the best pieces that are out there and you kind of shove them together and say, you know what, I'm just going to have good cards all game long. You've got to answer it.
Yeah, and absolutely, and it's interesting how many different ones you can do in Legacy because you have so many different cards. You can build a controlling green, white, black deck, a faster green, white, black deck, and we saw Gerard Fabiano earlier in the tournament. He's playing for a top 8 this round, I believe, with a different take on the deck with the Team America approach, the same deck that won last week. So there's all kinds of different green, white, black decks running around, and they all run some of the same cards, some of the different ones, and it's interesting to see how they match up against the different decks out in the field in different ways. We're joined also by Ben Hayes, who just entered the booth.
Right, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Hey,
how's it going?
It took me until now to realize I wasn't wearing a Star City shirt. I thought I was when I left the hotel, and then I looked down at some point today, and I was like,
well,
anyway,
now I am. Well, I'm glad we solved that egregious there.
Yeah.
And,
welcome to the team.
Again, it's good to be back.
So
looks like Kenny's in good shape.
Yeah, that Hymn to Turok, I can't see exactly which 2 cards he hit, but they were certainly devastating for him. I mean, Max has been able to build back up with Goblin War Chief and a Mog War Marshal, but Kenny's got double Tarmogoyf and Dark Confidant, along with Sensei's Divining Top, which is making sure he's not taking too much damage from his Dark Confidant.
Does Max have 1 or 2? How many cards does Max have in hand? Do we know?
Looks like 2 cards in hand for Max. The War Chief is so powerful because he may not have any cards. Oh no, looks like he had 3, so he's going to hold 1 after this Hymn to Turok.
All right, let's see what we nail here. Kenny rolls. And we were talking about this a little earlier, but when you do a randomization effect, the instinct is like just pull 2 cards out of your opponent's hand for something like him. But there's a big, but you really should roll a dice just because A, like it makes it truly random, your opponent might like have organized cards in their hand in a certain way to trick you, or from their perspective, and from your perspective, like you might have a read on what they're doing, and you don't want to like have a bias toward what cards you're picking when it should be a truly random effect. So rolling dice is always a good way to randomize which cards you're taking with a random ability.
So as I was saying, one of the things with War Chief and why it is so powerful is it just allows you to be so explosive. Cutting down the cost and also turning on haste in a deck where all you want to do is turn guys sideways, just exactly what you want. I can bring down more guys and they're all going to be right out there in the red zone immediately.
Absolutely, and normally Goblins has a fairly aggressive start, backed by the War Chief, but this game, the double him to Turok by Kenny has really hamstringed Max's ability to get that quick start. But even now, we see SCGN Commander coming down, which is, along with Goblin War Chief, is certainly nice. Not only did it cost 4, but all the Goblins from the SCGN Commander have haste too. That makes Max's board 3 1/1 Goblin tokens.
4, 1 from the War Marshal.
Oh wow, yeah. 4, 3 from SCGN Commander, 1 from War Marshal. The War Marshal itself, Goblin War Chief, and the SCGN Commander versus Kenny Mayer's Dark Confidant, Tarmogoyf, and since it's Divining Top. And Max does some calculations and swings, deciding to leave the SCGN Commander and Goblin War Chief back at home.
Yeah, I don't know what Kenny has in hand, but I don't think Max is in terrible shape here. I mean, Siege Gang can come online and for him every turn. Yeah, and if at any point Max draws like a ringleader or a matron for a ringleader, like he could easily get back into this.
Yeah,
or I mean, not back into this. He is in this.
Yep.
So
yeah, not a whole lot of decks that are excited about coming back from double him to Turok, but Goblins is one of them that just needs to get that little bit, and it can explode right back out.
Yeah, that SCGN Commander was a great draw for Max and really propelled him to exactly what he needed here. He went from kind of a mediocre placing. He found the War Chief, which, like you said, Jared, was a crucial part of the Goblins deck, and then he found the SCGN Commander, which goes great with it. And Kenny is suddenly going from a great position to on the ropes. Next turn, Max alone can hit him for 4 with the War Chief or with the ring.
Oh, not so much. There it goes to swords.
There goes that. Now the board's a little more stabilized. Max still has a slight advantage, but that Tarmogoyf makes attacking a lot less profitable.
And the second one
second Tarmogoyf
makes him not as happy.
Kenny's Canopy is taking him down. That's 2 damage in the last 2 turns.
Yep, he's been forced to be using all of his resources.
Yeah.
So every point really counts against Goblins, and he flipped his top, so he's gonna take 1 from Bob unless it blocks something.
Yes. Now Kenny's, it's amazing how much games in Legacy can go back and forth in such a quick ratio. Now Kenny seems to be maybe slightly advantaged here, but I mean, he still has that Horizon Canopy, which he's taking damage from. There's since it's Divining Top on top of his library, which will deal 1 damage to him off the Dark Confidant. So Max is in the tank trying to figure out, should I attack here? Is it risk? Is it okay to lose my War Chief, or what line of play do I want to take? And of course, he has the 1 card in his hand he just drew. Who knows what that is?
Yeah, and the big thing here is, although Kenny stabilized the board, he's still at a low enough life total that against Goblins he's always under threat, and he is in no position right now to become the aggressive deck and try and go after Max at 22 life.
Right.
Wasteland drops Kenny's Savannah.
Yep. And he's down to 3 lands.
So he wastelands that, and is that a scrub land Kenny has in play?
It looks like a scrub land, a swamp, and a Horizon Canopy.
Horizon Canopy is his only source of green.
Correct.
I mean, unless he drew a Mox Diamond earlier, so he could play that. I guess on the off chance he doesn't have another land, then he could be choked on green.
He hasn't been dropping lands. He's missed a couple of land drops in a row. Probably means he's hurting for him at the moment.
Yeah, Max may have choked him on green into using only Canopy, which would damage him
and
even more.
And there it goes.
Yeah, I guess maybe a Knight here. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Knight's a great one to draw, but at this point, every life point is so crucial. And as long as that War Chief is on the battlefield, it's going to be so easy for Max to just rip a card and suddenly have a whole new legion of goblins. You know, one matron, one ringleader, and suddenly the whole hand comes on the battlefield and attacks right past Kenny, and every life point is going to be crucial.
Well, another Siege Gang commander would just end it.
Yes, definitely. Now, Max only has 2 in his deck. He's already drawn 1, but if he just draws any of his matrons, he can go find his other copy. And then, you know, next turn, he can just untap and deploy it. Trying to see if Kenny has any interesting lands he can search for here. None that will really help this matchup too much. He could potentially search for Wasteland with his Knight of the Reliquary to cut Max off of 4 mana. So he can't Siege Gang Commander. All right. So
Bob goes down to Warren Weirding.
Yeah, Warren Weirding goes down. The one of, or 2 of Max's list, actually.
Yep.
I'm wondering if Max maybe should have Weirdinged himself and sacrificed the War Marshal. That would have given him 2 tokens from the Weirding and 1 from the War Marshal.
Would have brought him up to 7 creatures
to 7
on the
guys.
board.
I'm not sure it matters, but like the Bob would have damaged Kenny. So the Bob would have dealt Kenny 1. It's possible that between the Horizon Canopy and the Bob and the extra token, Max could have been in a better position.
It would have dropped Kenny to 3, I believe.
If he'd gone in with everything, he would have knocked out the Bob before it could deal the damage, but he would have gotten 3 in on that play.
I mean, so if he Weirdings himself and
Weirding
sacrifices
himself
the War
and not
Marshal,
attack. He also paid 1 too many for Weirding. Not that that matters.
That is also true. A wasted red mana.
An empty hand, however, does not care about that.
How fortunate there's no mana burn. Not that that extra life is looking too precious for Max at this moment. He's sitting on a plush 22 life against Kenny's mere 5.
Kenny takes another damage sacking a fetch land.
But he now has a non-pain source for green mana.
He does. That's pretty big. I mean, I think I actually like Weirding. I like Max Weirding himself, sacking War Marshal and passing there. I think it puts him at drawing any goblin.
Putting him in good shape.
Yeah. Oh, that was a really bad card to draw.
All right. So yeah, Aether Vial a little late for Aether Vial for Max. It could potentially do something, but
explosive at the start of the game. But it's only gonna, once it gets up to 2 or 3, where he's gonna be able to throw something in at the end of turn. All it's gonna do is make Kenny think a little bit more, but not really frightening at this point in the game.
Yeah. I mean, we're still in a position where Siege Gang or Ringleader into Siege Gang or Matron into Siege Gang, Max has a lot of easy paths to victory, and he's at a lot of life and has also a lot of blockers.
yeah.
Once again, Kenny's just in no position to start taking this game back over. He's just fighting to make sure that he makes it to the next turn.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Kenny's list, and that's certainly a problem for him. I think the only card he really has to break through is Elspeth Knight Errant, which would give his guys Angelic Blessings who can fly over if he establishes a board position later on. But even then, he's got to get to the point where we can establish a board position first. And speaking of the board, the game states might have gotten a little complicated if you just started watching. So we're in round 8 of the Star City Games Open Series here in Edison, New Jersey. I'm here with Gavin Verhey. I'm Gavin Verhey, joined by Jared Silva, event manager, and Ben Hayes, guest commentator. And the board state has gotten a little muddy. What Max Tietze has in play right now is Goblin War Chief, an Aether Vial, 3 Goblin tokens, and a Goblin War Marshal. And Kenny Mayer has 2 Tarmogoyfs, another Reliquary, and a Sensei's Divining Top. One of his lands is a Horizon Canopy, which he might cash in for a card at some point. He also has a Wasteland he could potentially strip mine Max of a land if he so desired. So Kenny decides to take the aggressive stance and serves in with that Tarmogoyf.
Looks like Max is going to take it. How big is this Tarmogoyf?
And they're counting. There's certainly lands and creatures and sorceries. So that's at least 3.
Is there an artifact?
It's unclear what Max discarded earlier.
Oh, wow.
Max.
5/5.
5/5 or 5/6, I suppose.
Yep.
There's the Elspeth.
And there's the Elspeth
there we go.
that Kenny needed. So Elspeth comes down and will make some tokens to block, and then threatens to jump his guys into the air, which will shortly start halving Max Tietze's life total. I mean, it jumps.
Kenny does take the point.
Yeah, and drops to 4.
And I am. Oh, that's why he needed the second white on that.
I suppose he has to legally cast his spells.
Yes, yeah. It is an inconvenience at times. But Max may be running out of time to get that next goblin and push through.
Yeah, with Kenny only at 4, it's I mean, certainly any major goblin will do it. A matron or a ringleader will both be big problems for Kenny, but Max has to draw one of those for that to happen.
He drew something.
Yeah,
Did he draw matron?
Oh,
he drew
incinerator.
And that's going to pick up another card.
Yep. So
Another opportunity.
let's see what Max draws here. Slides it forward. I think it's red.
It's a red card.
He's got a lot of
I
those.
think it was a matron.
I also
I only
think.
saw it for a second.
It looked like it was an
also been
old
a war
card
chief.
frame. Yeah.
It was definitely old card frame.
Yeah. So potentially war chief.
Matron, war chief. Could be a pile driver.
You've got to be thinking that Kenny's plan here is he's hoping to find the Vindicate for the...
Oh, we can't see what it is.
I think it's another incinerator.
No, matron.
Matron. Oh no, he's searching. Yep.
So this Max can't get Siege Gang because Kenny can wasteland him.
I think Kenny
can actually double wasteland him.
is Kenny dead this turn if Max gets a 1-drop and vials it in? He only has 2 blockers, and yeah, would be 5 attackers on Max's side. So
1, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is he dead without it? 1, 2, 3,
He's in fact
4, 5,
looks like
6.
he's dead on the board.
Yeah, he's dead without anything.
Yeah, I think Max is probably going to play around potential.
Play around swords.
Yeah. Well, he only has a Bayou on
He has
tap.
black green. And
Yeah, he can sack it with knight and get a white source.
Oh, sure. That's
So
certainly true.
I do think Max's play is to get a lackey and vial it in.
He's counting
I
to see
think
how
Max
big that
is
knight is.
checking how big the knight is and possibly...
going after an incinerator. If he's going
No,
after
he's
an
getting
incinerator,
lackey. Yeah,
no,
he's just
getting
going to
lackey.
vial in lackey and attack. And I can't think of any card Kenny could have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking through Kenny's deck list right now. Unless he has swords, which is he could gain a bunch of life off his
swords
own
his
knight,
own knight.
but that still sounds kind of rough for him, and I don't think he has swords, which we would have cast it already. And Kenny looks at the board.
I think they're confirming that he's attacking him and not Elspeth.
All right, Kenny's thinking about his blocks.
So it looks like Kenny may have something to do here.
Yeah, he wouldn't be going through these motions if he wasn't going to do something. Blocking here and swordsing his own Goyf, possibly, instead of his own knight.
Yeah. The knight might be too important. All right, so
the knight, I think, is a faster clock if you're jumping it. But does he really have the option to jump it?
I mean,
I think what he's going to have to do here is he's going to have blocking the war chief with the knight indicates to me that he's going to be he's got to swords his own Tarmogoyf, the one that was tapped that isn't blocking, because you've got to get that war chief out of there.
Yeah.
So you've got to block it with something that's going to kill it, and so since he put the knight in front of the war chief rather than the Tarmogoyf in front of the war chief, he's got to be sticking around.
Right.
So if he's going to sword something, it's going to have to be his own Tarmogoyf, gain himself some life there that way, but leave both the blockers in play to kill the guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to trade, or have to not trade, but kill off his creatures here. Otherwise, like, killing the war chief is huge, because then his creatures don't have haste, and you have to minimize the number of creatures he has, so you can try and get
So
something
he
the next
just
round.
threw a marsh flats through to get his knight a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Actually, I think Max might be dead on the swing back. If
Really?
Kenny sacks his Horizon Canopy and then wastelands his dual land, that would up the knight by 3. Yeah, I think Max is dead exactly on the swing back.
Well, let's
If the
see.
Goyf is 5.
He's topping. Oh, and after all that,
Oh, never mind.
After all of that,
He
he
was-
doesn't have the swords to
Yeah.
pull it out.
yeah, he had to go through the motion so he could at least top to try and find it. But
I actually think by destroying his own lands, the knight plus the Goyf plus the blessing would have killed Max in one hit.
he did have quite a few lands in his graveyard. I think that might have
Yeah,
done
he
it.
can waste his own land, sack his canopy. Yeah, that would have been nuts.
Yeah,
And he got the fetch. Oh, he got the fetch to shuffle again. Yeah.
yeah, he was just one turn off. So looking at the sideboard here, we look at Kenny's sideboard. What's coming in? 4 engineered plagues in the sideboard.
That sounds a lot like that's
Those
coming
are
in.
very good.
4 go for the throws. You think you want those in this matchup? Probably. How good are point removal spells against goblins?
You got to get rid of war chief. It's not
Yeah.
all about one card.
I think he
but
has
that
to bring
one
them
card
in.
is just it changes the game significantly. If you're worrying about what's in his hand rather than just what's on the board, it's a lot more to think about, and it makes you have to be a lot more defensive in this matchup.
I mean, I think he's taking out Thoughtseize,
I thought,
or he may leave them in.
I feel like Vindicate probably.
Vindicate, yeah.
Because Vindicate is super slow here. Like,
so he's pulling the Vindicate.
definitely pulling the 4 Vindicates, and I think he wants to bring in 8
Is he
cards.
taking out the Confidants?
I like Confidant in this matchup because all you want to do, I think, is draw yourself closer to Engineered Plague. And especially on the play, the Confidants are going to give you the opportunity to do that.
Is he taking out...
I mean, I could see Thoughtseize going here, but I feel like maybe nabbing it. Like, he's got 4 Thoughtseize, 1 Inquisition. He might go down to maybe 2 or 3 discard spells. I don't know if you want to open a hand that has, like, 3 discard spells against goblins.
He probably cuts some discard spells. I agree with you. He probably cuts Vindicate. And then, I mean, I can see shaving an Elspeth. It's good. Actually, 2 might be... He might need to draw 1 to actually close the game out before Max can get, like, a Chieftain. And although, I mean, he has swords and go for the throat post-board, so Chieftain, it doesn't even really save him. He doesn't have a Chieftain?
He's got 1 Chieftain in the deck.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, looking over Kenny's deck list, my first reaction was,
Might take out some hymns.
Even
though they were good.
Was that he has to keep the Elspeths in so that he can get through the huge amount of blockers, but the game changes so radically after sideboarding. Those Engineered Plagues are what the game becomes about. When you land one, suddenly all the blockers aren't a problem. There are none, so you can just crash in. So this Elspeths might not be as important after sideboarding. You could maybe swap those for Go for the Throats.
And they're expensive. Like, he doesn't want to draw a hand with Elspeths and like Knights and...
Well, Thoughtseize can definitely be a good lead just to break up your opponent's plan in this matchup. How important
to get a War Chief out of his hand. Yeah.
Is that 2 life?
I mean,
actually, Thoughtseize might be really good.
Yeah,
here.
actually, and on the play for Kenny, hitting Goblin Lackey on the play is gigantic too. So, I mean, on the draw it might be a little worse, but on the play it's pretty good. Looking at Max Tietze's deck list, looking through his options, Mindbreak Trap definitely not coming in. Our Relic of Progenitus, I could see it if you wanted to get rid of, like, make Shrink Tarmogoyfs and Knights, but it seems like a reactive card is probably not what the Goblins player wants in this matchup.
I think the question on the Relic is whether there's something he wants out for this matchup, rather than than it's something that he wants in. It's definitely a card that can give him something in this matchup, and it draws a card, it replaces itself. But I don't think there's enough for it to want to get into this matchup. But if there's something he doesn't want to be seeing in his opening hand, that definitely could come in just as a utility cycling card.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Max's deck list, it's there's so many strong spells in here. I don't know what aggressive card he would really want to take out for the Relic, so they'll probably stay on the bench, I imagine.
I wonder if he's gonna bring in the Thoughtseize to try to nab Engineered Plague.
That would make sense to me.
He's not too worried about his life total. If he's losing the game, he's losing it big.
Right. And plus, Thoughtseize still hits like a ton of good cards, and either Reliquary, just even hitting like his top could be huge.
I think Max brings in Thoughtseize. I don't think he brings in Pyrokinesis.
I don't think it's going to do enough.
It's just...
Pyrokinesis can only hit creatures, right? It can't split among players?
I'm not sure about that.
Let's...
We have a Gatherer right here.
And we'll find out real fast. So Pyrokinesis, for those who don't know, is the red Force of Will. It's a red pitch spell. You can exile a red card in your hand to cast it for free, and yeah, it deals 4 damage divided any way you choose among any number of target creatures, and it's an instant.
Yeah, so it's probably... I don't see it killing more than... I don't see it being good.
As soon as Knight's active, I think there's just no chance.
Yeah, it's not going to kill... It's not even probably going to kill a Goyf and a Bob.
Yep. So I think the Thoughtseize will come in, and after that, probably not too much. So the players look like they picked up their opening hands here, and we'll see how correct we are with their sideboarding calls. Kenny leads on a Wasteland, which indicates to me that he wants to potentially Wasteland Max's first play. For those who don't know him, Kenny is he's been playing Magic for a long time in the Northeast area, goes to a lot of the Star City Games, PTQs. He just won a PTQ, correct?
I believe so.
Jared, yeah, he won the Nagoya PTQ, I believe, with a Naya deck. And he's very experienced, played on a lot of pro tours, a very skilled player. But his opponent is no slouch either. Max Tietze made top 8 of the Legacy Grand Prix, I believe, the one that Steve Sadin won. and he's played Goblins, made top 8 of the Open Series last weekend, and clearly knows how to play. And
Looks
there's
like
the
the relics came in.
The relics came in. I guess shrinking all your opponent's Goyfs and Knights is a good enough reason to bring them in. Plus, cycling is always towards your best cards is always reasonable.
Most interesting question I think there is what is no longer in the deck.
I agree.
Yeah, Max may think that, you know, if it comes down to Plague, and if he assumes Kenny is taking out Elspeth, then Relic can really buy him a ton of time, you know, shrinking Goyf and Knight if those are Kenny's only ways to win.
How important do you feel Goblin Sharpshooter is in this matchup? Do you think you're going to be able to machine gun them out a lot of the time, or should it be cut potentially?
Does he have a sack outlet like old Goblins used to?
It doesn't look like it. No.
He probably boards it out then.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
Looks like he boarded out. Looks like he would board out Sharpshooter. Yeah, I don't know what else really.
Right, so
Does Incinerator have enough pop to take things down?
Take out. Like I was thinking, the creatures are probably kind of big, but then if he's bringing in Relic, he might want Incinerator. And Bob is pretty good in the matchup to draw Kenny into more.
Speaking of Bob,
More removal
Yeah.
spells.
So-
And here it is.
So back to the board. Max hasn't done a whole lot for a Goblins deck. All he's done is cast that Relic so far. On the flip side, Kenny hasn't done a lot either, but he played a Dark Confidant, which is no doubt going to be a strong play here.
definitely a precursor to doing some more stuff.
Yes. And like we said, all Kenny wants to do here is find that Engineering Plague, and Dark Confidant will help him do exactly that. He's perfectly happy taking 3 damage to find a Plague here. And Max thinks for a while on the end step, and then just opts to draw.
And it's worth noting that Max has no outs to 2 Engineered Plagues being in play.
And his only real out to 1 Engineered Plague is a Singleton Goblin Chieftain, which, if Kenny brought in Go for the Throats, it is going to be very difficult to stick.
Yeah, between Go for the Throat and Swords, that seems really tough.
Yeah.
Max drops the Badlands.
Max
so that
did
he
bring
can-
in Thoughtseize.
Yeah. So that you can get that in. I don't think that Badlands is long for the world, though.
Wow, that's a really... Oh, wait. Does he have green mana?
Yeah, is that a Savannah?
Couldn't have... Oh, that's an untapped Savannah under the logo. I see.
So Kenny reveals a hand of Caracas, Go for the Throat, Swords to Plowshares, Tarmogoyf, and Engineer Explosives. So it looks like Kenny brought the explosives in. So if he brought in Go for the Throat, and obviously brought in Plague, and he brought in Engineer Explosives, he probably took out quite a few cards.
You've got to think that the explosives is primarily against the tokens.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. And plus, you can just set it on, 1 early, like you can go turn 1 explosives on 1, and then kill a Goblin Lackey if your opponent has it. So it gives you a little bit of play there.
Yeah. It definitely is a versatile way to deal with stuff, but definitely most effective against a board like Max had last game.
And Max took explosives.
Yep. I think he might be worried about that Relic potentially. I don't know. So it flips Elspeth. Kenny takes 4 damage there, but that Elspeth is going to come down and start making some tokens.
Provided we have land number 4.
And Caracas is in Kenny's hand right now. So are those both Badlands or Savannas? I guess they've got to be Badlands against Dark Confidant, right?
Yep.
So he does not have a green source is what it looks like. And yeah, here comes Elspeth.
There is Elspeth.
But the Soldier in passes. Not a super fast start by Kenny, but Max's start is like glacial for a Goblin deck.
It's exactly what
Max
Kenny
has
wants
an
to see.
Incinerator. He may have 2 Incinerators.
Not doing a whole lot without
Yeah.
their friends.
There's not very much incinerating happening when other Goblins are not inside the party. We could potentially see a hard cast Incinerator just to get the Goblin count up. Max is still reluctant to crack that Relic to draw a card. He feels like, okay, I have it in my deck. I'm going to wait till the correct time to play it. And down comes War Chief. Here we go. And Max is during his next line of play. Now the War Chief
Thinking about
is
whether
down.
to attack Elspeth or Kenny, it looks like.
And it looks like it's Kenny, and Kenny takes 2, dropping him to 13 points of life. And the Dark Confidant, like if it's been doing good work so far, but hit Elspeth last turn, hit some more high casting cost cards. Here's Tarmogoyf, dropping Kenny to 12, and Kenny still has no green source.
Kenny's got to be looking for a top to
That
start
doesn't look
controlling
like a
that
green
damage.
source.
Yeah, he needs a top or something. It's potential that Dark Confidant could die, but even then, he needs a green source to get something back online to start blocking. Max can't just have nothing forever.
You'll note in the background of that shot, John Finkel in the top 8 of the draft open.
Oh, right
over at
there.
one of the feature match tables, right over Kenny's right shoulder.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to move over to that match if this match finishes early. Be great to. It's awesome he came out this weekend. Absolutely fantastic.
Having seen some of John's deck, I think it's likely we'll have opportunities to see him in the top 4 and possibly the finals.
Fair enough. And considering the player too, that seems like a good chance.
I don't think pilot error is going to be his exit strategy.
So Kenny Mayer finds a Marsh Flats, which would get him the source that he needs to cast his green spells. So here comes Tarmogoyf down, I would imagine.
And Max is at very low life, especially with an Elspeth there.
Meisenhower just came by to inform us that he just won his last round, which means he will almost certainly be in top 8 of this event, making back-to-back top 8s for him. Congratulations, assuming that his next round opponent will choose to draw with him. Kenny brings out that Tarmogoyf and puts out a blocker for Max. Yeah, those Elspeths just seem great here. The 3 damage and flying over any potential goblins that might be in the way are excellent. Kenny tapping 2 more and go for the throat.
And the Wasteland gets to knock out a Batman.
Whatever Max has been saving, he needs to show it now. And so he relics Kenny.
Let's get those out of there. Keep that Tarmogoyf at a reasonable size.
Right. He can definitely shrink the Tarmogoyf next time when it tries to attack. He drew another relic here. It looks like his hand is double Incinerator, relic, and I can't quite make out the other 2 cards.
Seems like he's in a pretty tough spot at the moment.
Yeah. I mean,
2 more shots from Elspeth pumps, and
yeah, he really needed that.
Especially after sacrificing the fetch land.
Yeah, he really needed that War Chief to stick around so that he could start incinerating for value, but he seems pretty reluctant to just pay 2 mana and draw a card with a card as good as Goblin Incinerator.
Well, the other big thing there is that he just has no threat without the War Chief.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's not doing much of
anything that he's doing, unless he's dropping another War Chief or a Chieftain, it's just coming down and then sitting there waiting to be flown over.
Max finally decides to crack that Relic of Progenitus, finds a mountain off of it, bringing him up to an extra land this turn. And here comes down another Relic.
Not too worried about losing the first one, I see.
A nice little 0-1 Tarmogoyf on the other side. Go for the throat, flips the Bob, so Kenny has another card that he can use to kill any threat Max plays. And I would guess Elspeth is probably going to jump something here. Get in for a 5, 6 points of damage.
You gotta think Max goes down to 2.
Yep. Or with that Marsh Flats, I guess he can activate Relic of Progenitus in response. So Tarmogoyf is likely just hanging back on defense here. It's not going to be doing a lot.
No reason it wouldn't be lethal anyways.
Right, exactly.
And at 9 life, if he did drop a Chieftain or a War Chief to get in, doesn't make any sense for Kenny to open himself up to Bob doing bad things.
Yeah, I mean, it still gives him a blocker within the Tarmogoyf, plus he keeps Go for the Throat in his hand, which should be able to seal off any route so Max has the victory.
I think if he's going to go for Max sacking Relic to shrink it, and then he's going to sack Marsh Flats to give it back a power.
But currently Tarmogoyf is 0 power.
Oh, it's 0 power right now.
Yeah, it's 0 power right now.
He's going to push it and then...
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure I like that attack with Tarmogoyf then.
Because it feels like Max is pretty desperate, so he's going to want to cycle that Relic anyway.
Yeah.
And granted, he can just Scrabble him here and get rid of that card and then crack it end step, but...
Scrabbling Claws.
an homage to the original Relic of Progenitus. Much worse.
Going back to original Mirrodin.
The first time there, none of this Phyrexian nonsense. All right. So Kenny thinking.
Another Tarmogoyf?
Let's see if we can close this out.
All right, here comes Tarmogoyf. And things looking good for Kenny here.
Max
And
cycles an incinerator, I think.
He chooses to keep
That should
the
bring
relic
the
out.
hand out. Yep,
All right.
and there we go. Let's
right.
move to game 3.
All right, game 3 it is.
Goblins on the play, always dangerous.
So now we're going to game 3, and we saw some of Kenny's sideboard decisions that game. We did not see Thoughtseize. We did see Go for the Throat, Engineer Explosives, and while we did not see it, Engineered Plague is in his deck. Do you think he changes any of his sideboarding? If he kept it in Thoughtseize, I don't think he wants him as much on the draw.
I'm not sure.
I think they almost had to come out because we did see Engineered Explosives and Go for the Throat, and Vindicates wanted to come out, but I think that after that, Thoughtseize is the logical choice just because of the life loss, and if you're bringing in the Go for the Throats, the Engineered Plagues, your plan is not to stall, is not to just try and pull one card. You're trying to obviate their entire deck with those Engineered Plagues. So I think you want to just go for aggressively going after them. He kept the Dark Confidants in. All the cards that we were talking about, it seems like Dark Confidant's still in, and he definitely brought in a pretty sizable sideboard plan, so Thoughtseize almost has to be out of it.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I mean, I don't think he would bring in any Engineer Explosives before he brought in Go for the Throats. So that means that's at least 9 cards in Kenny's deck. And this time it's not Kenny we should go into the sideboard that we should be talking about. It's actually Max. Max is thumbing through his deck, considering his options, trying to figure out how he should sideboard in for this matchup. Does he want Thoughtseize here? Or, like, the relics were not that great for him that game. Yeah, they shrunk the Tarmogoyfs, but he had no action in the first place.
Well,
so.
He also had some pretty dead incinerators, and he may have figured that out and decided that those need to be out. They didn't have enough gas to get there. Even with the relic shrinking the Tarmogoyfs down, he never got to take out a Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, and I could see maybe leaving some of the incinerators in, but I don't know if you can afford to have a heavy incinerator draw here. I don't know, go ahead. Sorry.
You clearly don't want to be running them out there. If they're not cycling, they're not doing anything for you.
The 2 1s for a 3, not quite as impressive. What do you think, Ben?
Well, he had Thoughtseize and Relic that game. Relic wasn't very good for him. I think that his configuration this game, he might leave Relic in the board and bring in and keep the Thoughtseize in, and the cards from his main deck that might come out for Thoughtseize, I could see taking out the Sharpshooter and maybe 2 Incinerators. He might even go down to 1 Incinerator. I think it's really good to have 1 to Matron for, but I don't think he wants many more than that. And we saw 2 in his hand last game, so I mean, either he left 2 in that game or he left 4 in. I think it's fairly safe to assume he boarded some amount of Incinerators out, and he may have boarded the Relics back out. Yeah, I don't really like Relic. Well, maybe. I mean, it's tough because if Goyf can never attack, because if it ever gets 1 damage on it, he can sack Relic, and then as soon as the graveyards are gone, the Goyf will die.
There's no way to respond to that and keep it alive.
I'm just wondering if there are 3 more cards Max really feels like he can afford to take out. He could take a 3rd Incinerator and just have 1 for Matron.
Do you think the Warren Weirdings should be staying in this matchup?
I mean, if you're boarding in Relic to kill threats, then I feel like you would rather have Warren Weirding, which just guarantees killing a threat. Although Relic cycles, Warren Weirding's a goblin. It may be the same situation where you might cut 1
and keep
so you
1
can
in
Matron for 1.
Yep.
Not sure. Although, yeah, I could see cutting 1 Warren Weirding. He may have cut. No, I don't really think he would cut anything else.
All right, well,
game 3.
Max clearly kept that as relics in. He dropped 1 on the first turn. It's possible that Max might have felt like he didn't see Engineered Plague that game, and Kenny kept a 7, so he might have felt, well, maybe I don't need these Thoughtseizes anymore, which could end up backfiring on Max Tietze.
Well, that's an interesting turn 1 from Kenny.
No
Mox
land.
Diamond dropping down, pitching apparently his only land, because he does not make a land drop.
He has to have Engineered Plague in his hand. I haven't seen Kenny's hand, but I don't know why he would keep a hand like that without Engineered Plague.
He does have top, so he can start looking for that. And if all he's got to do is get the 3 mana and he gets to shut it down. Oh,
wow, no Plague.
No Plague.
That seems like a really...
Wow.
I don't like that hand.
Swords, Goyf, Knight of the Reliquary, Dark Confidant.
That sounds a lot like I thought I had one more land hand.
That sounds like, yeah, an I misclicked in real life. I forgot Mox Diamond made me discard a land kind of thing. I mean, now Kenny, if he just soul draws a couple lands, he can get out of this. Sense's Divining Top is obviously going to help him a little bit. But that's a rough place to be in. Especially because if he had Plague, I think I could see it. But with that hand, I don't know. But obviously Kenny's played the deck quite a bit. He's got experience with it. I'll trust his judgment here.
I see a diamond on top of his deck.
4, 8, 11, 14, 18, 20, 23 lands in Kenny's deck.
Kenny got a Plains.
All right.
And I saw a diamond on top of his deck. I didn't see what the third card was.
Well, the top will help him dig a little deeper this turn.
Diamond's not going to help you.
Oh, wow. Max just passes with nothing.
Wow. And Max kept another hand with just nothing but reactive cards,
And
Relic and Thoughtseize.
He chose not even to not even cycle the Relic to try to hit a 1-drop or a land. Or
He's really protective of those relics.
I think he feels keeping Kenny's graveyard down is worth not being aggressive.
Right. So Kenny plays Tarmogoyf. I don't know how I feel about that play, only because it encourages Max to crack the Relic, which is something I don't think Kenny wants Max to do here. But I guess putting pressure on him is reasonable.
Right, so Max draws Aether Vial.
Okay.
And I think he can Relic himself to make Tarmogoyf irrelevant.
Yes. For now, anyway.
Yep, he doesn't need to crack it yet.
Kenny opted to play that Tarmogoyf over Dark Confidant, so I feel like he's probably on the beatdown plan here. Normally I'd be like, oh, well, maybe he wants to draw more cards, get back into having, get some more lands. But with that Tarmogoyf, it sounded like maybe he was trying to get Max to use his Relic in a different way, or potentially go on some kind of aggressive strategy. But now Dark Confidant hits the table, and
Max has a very large grip. I think I see a Warren Weirding.
Is that 2 lackeys?
I see a Warren Weirding. There's a Pile Driver.
Okay.
I do believe he has a lackey. Although I don't know why he wouldn't have cast it last turn.
Maybe he's got some weird anti-engineered plague strategy, but I'm not sure what that could be. So Kenny's thinking about if he's going to top here, or if he's going to take whatever Bob throws at him. He knows what the third card of his library is, right? What the top card is now.
Yeah, I think the top card is a Mox Diamond.
So he can take nothing.
And then draw a card.
It's like I knew.
Good old top. And
Kenny was pretty interested in trying to get that third land so he could play a 3-drop. He does have Knight in his hand.
So here comes another Mox Diamond.
Chooses to... Yeah. I think that's fine. I mean, Max doesn't have anything that can kill the diamonds. Right. So
is that
That's wow. That's an
engineered explosive, which is going to make some
Kenny's gonna
sadness.
use his top.
He's gonna,
and
that's a whole bunch of important one-cost
and Max
artifacts going away from Max's side.
Yeah, I mean, so A, Relic goes away, and Max can't activate it. B, the Vial goes away, and since Vial was on 1, Max can't afford to activate Vial in response, or he loses whatever he Vials in. So that was actually a pretty great play by Kenny, killing that Vial, and really stopping Max Tietze from setting up.
Looks like Max drew a Matron.
I saw Warren Weirding in his hand as well. So Kenny played another land there, and he's slowly starting to grind his way up from the 1 land that he started with. And with that Dark Confidant active, and in such a good position, it's only a matter of time until Engineered Play comes down for him.
Goblins does not want to be the deck that's on the defensive. If you are not sending creatures out every turn, it's just not helping you at all.
Especially when your opponent has inevitability. I mean, Kenny just has an inevitability that eventually he'll draw a Plague, and Max is not being aggressive enough to put any pressure on Kenny to limit the number of turns he's going to get access to.
Although, we haven't seen it yet.
It's true. So yeah, he does.
There's Incinerator doing
Palm
something.
Takes out Dark Confidant, so that'll buy Max some time.
Still no land for Max there.
Looks like a black card.
I thought I saw a black card too.
That could be a go for the throat.
It didn't look like Plague to me.
Yeah, I also did not get the feeling it was Engineered Plague.
I don't think Plague would have stayed in his hand this long.
It's true. I mean, he might have tried for the swing first, but I don't think it changes much. All right, so in comes Tarmogoyf. Elspeth.
Oh, wow.
Post combat, making a token. All right, and Kenny passes back to Max.
Who's
Still stuck
still
on
no
lands.
lands?
And I see, is that 2 lackeys in his hand? Or
There must be something else.
is there 3?
I feel like those lackeys would have been in play.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's just no
what's going
reason
on.
not to have those down on the ground right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless,
Oh.
there's one.
Okay.
All right. Interesting. So
You've got to think if he had more than one, he'd be putting him on the ground and forcing Kenny to stay back.
Yep. I agree. Scissors Divine Top comes down, which will definitely help Kenny out here. I think he sees. I thought I saw 2 lands. And is that a Vindicate? Maybe he left Vindicate in.
I think there's a sword there.
Or perhaps that's a sword.
If he has Vindicate, it just vindicates Max's land.
What a blowout. So looking at Max's hand from this vantage point, I definitely see...
War Chief.
Yeah, I
Caught a
definitely see a
War
War Chief and a Mog War Marshal and a Matron and a Warren Weirding. So Kenny cracks the top, cashes it in for a card, plays Verdant Catacombs, and out comes another top.
Well, he did have the one he just threw back on top.
Right. And that's great for Kenny because now he can shuffle away the top with Verdant Catacombs and he doesn't have to worry about drawing it anymore. Such is one of the many amazing features of the fetch lands. And he comes in Tarmogoyf. And that slices Max's life down. I'm not sure exactly on what Tarmogoyf's power is, but I think we'll find out here in a
Think
second.
it got an Angelic Blessing. I think Elspeth hasn't been activated yet. Looks like it's on 4.
Alright. And Kenny shuffling. Good old loading screens. Yep. So yeah, here we go. He corrects. He activates the Elspeth, puts a token onto the battlefield, and comes down another Tarmogoyf. That Relic of Progenitus that got blown up by Engineer Explosives is certainly looking pretty good in Max Tietze's graveyard.
And it looks like Max was right to try and protect that.
Yeah.
Would be very important right now.
I just have visions of Relic, Crack It, Pyrokinesis all your guys, kill your Elspeth, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I think there's a pretty low chance of that occurring.
There's lackey number 2.
Yeah.
It's unclear why that didn't come down last time.
Or rather, Pyrokinesis all your guys, then Relic, the one that works.
Yeah, good call. You don't want the card in the graveyard.
Yeah. Vulture Goyf. Okay.
Yeah, both the 2/3 Goyf when instants are not in the graveyard, not a great play. So Kenny's thinking about making sure he doesn't screw something up to lose this game, but he seems like he's in a good position.
It's just time to go to town.
Yep. The Tarmogoyf swing in, and Max has the opportunity to block. All right, so we've got confirmation that the Tarmogoyfs are 3 power creatures, so 3 force. So he can't triple block and kill any of them. At best, he can trade 2 of his creatures for 2 Tarmogoyfs, but I feel like that's kind of conceding. So yeah, he leaves the 2 lackeys back. I think his plan is hopefully kill a soldier token and then maybe lackey something in. And out, Wasteland on Badlands.
That seems
Is that a...
not very good.
Oh, and
that's the hand.
Yeah, there's Kenny pretty handled to the game. So Kenny's deck seems to have a pretty not great Goblins matchup, has 4 Engineered Plagues in the sideboard to rectify it, and just never draws them. It just doesn't need it.
No.
Yeah. Well done by Kenny. Assuming he can draw the next round, that could be another top 8 for him. The Star City Games kind of specialist in events goes to your PTQs, and at Roanoke he can come out on the circuit, and yeah, pretty cool deck he's playing too. It's a really interesting take on the archetype. It's like nothing too special, but at the same time nothing we've see like too often. There's a couple people playing this every tournament, and it never seems to break through. And Kenny might be the one who does it. He's really good at these kind of decks.
The best part about